Hi, this is Christopher Allen, and I'm introducing you to the summary for Webinar 5. In this webinar here, we'll be building a drag and drop interaction. We'll start to look at object replacement, which is a really invaluable feature inside ZebraZapps, which allows you to maintain your projects easily, duplicate and replace the content in your work really easily. And as you start growing in your use of ZebraZapps, you'll be using object replacement all the time. And then we'll wrap up by looking at how to publish your project. I'd first like to start by showing you the drag and drop interaction. Here I've got a completed version of the drag and drop interaction we'll be building in this summary video. Let's go ahead and run it from this event. The student is tasked with dragging each one of these phones down to the timeline and placing it on the year they think the phone was originally introduced. If they move the phone around and they miss, why it's going to zip back into its original place. If they do start to get it right, placing the giant brick here on 1983, why it's just going to stick right in place. And once they get the answer correct, the student won't be able to move the phone. To begin working today, I'm going to open up the starter file for Webinar 5. Once I've got my editor open here, I'm going to zoom all the way to the end and create a brand new event. I'll double click to start editing event number 7. Well, to give us some context for this event, let's simply ask a question here at the top. So I'm using the text object again, and we're just going to say to the user, drag each phone to the year it was introduced. And of course, you can spend some time to style your text object so that it looks nice on the screen. Maybe use a different font. Increase the font size just a little bit. Make it bold if we like. Just let that stretch all the way across. And as I was showing you before, we need a timeline at the bottom here so that we've got space for our students to place the phones on. We can kind of put that right about here. And maybe since some of those numbers are a little hard to read, we could add a shadow to that. And actually, let's make that shadow color, well, we could make it orange. That's not so bad. Or we could make it bright white. There we go. That looks just a little bit better. So we need a phone for the student to manipulate. And let's go over and bring in one of those images. Let's start with our phone for, well, let's go all the way here to the top and bring in this giant brick. Okay, so this is an object that we want our student to be able to move around the screen. And what I'd like to do is I want to make sure that it's a size that makes sense for the screen, because the screen itself isn't very big and we've got a giant phone here. So let's go over to zoom percentage and we'll just kind of eyeball this down a little bit. Maybe something right around 35%. Pretty good. If I were to run this project in run lock mode, here, just watch me for a second, hit the lock button, and we're going to run from this event forward. You'll notice that if I click and drag, I can't move the phone around. It's one of the benefits of putting your project into run lock mode. Lock mode really means run it as if it was a published file. If you turn lock mode off, this allows you as an author to be able to make some design changes around the screen, and you can actually move this around, but your student wouldn't be able to if it was published. Hit edit reset mode here a second so that we can start making some changes. So if I click on the message center for the phone, or even if you look in the inspector over here on the right, one of the actions is movable. And this really does mean, is it movable by the user at runtime? So let's go ahead and turn this to true. And now if we run our project, of course, running from this event forward in locked mode, you'll notice that I'm able to move the phone all around the screen. So what we want to have happen in this question is for the student to grab the phone, bring it down to the timeline, and have them let go. And if it's appropriately placed along the timeline, we'll have it stick. And if they've missed, so say they thought this was a 2015 phone and they let go, why we want it to snap back into its original position, kind of up here or so. So let me show you how you do that. First, we need a drop target. So we need an area defined on the screen where the student is supposed to drop the phone. I'm going to go back to the asset library, and we've created a bunch of year markers here. So it's just an asset instead of text, and this is helpful in a couple of ways, and I'll show you that later. I think this 2 is maybe just a little bit too big for the screen, so let's zoom that down to about 75%. And we'll kind of guesstimate putting this right in the middle. So what I want the user to do is to grab the phone and then to bring it over the drop target, and when they let go, to have it maybe stick right underneath the timeline or right above the timeline in a fashion that makes it known to the user that they did answer it correctly. Let's hit Edit Reset one more time. Bring this all the way up to the top. I noticed as I was moving the phone around that the phone was actually now behind my numbers here, and I probably don't want that to happen. So let's go to the Arrange menu and bring the phone to front. That way when the student mouses the phone over the numbers, why the phone always stays on top. Inside the message center for the phone, here we're going to find the triggers, the behaviors for drag and drop. And in fact, there's an entire category dedicated to it. Drag start would fire a change the moment the user starts moving the phone. While moving is a trigger that fires continuously as the student is moving the phone around the screen. And drag release is a trigger that fires the moment that the mouse button is released. Dropped on, this is specific to a target. So dropped on fires when you hit a very specific target, and here we can define that. Dropped on would fire if it was dropped on any of the targets, and drop missed would fire if it misses all of the targets. And we're going to use drop missed and dropped on. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is to associate this phone with the 1983 image. Let's go ahead and click here right inside the square, and notice that there's a prompt that says please select an object. If you hit it again, it clears out. And we're just going to choose the 1983 ping. And notice that Zebra tells us that we have selected that. It also gives us another blank ribbon, so we can have as many drop targets as we like. So what we want to have happen is we want something special to happen when we actually hit the target. And if we miss any or all of the targets, of course, why we want to have it return back to its original position. So let's do that first. When the student misses the target, we want something to happen, so we're going to click and drag to create a wire. Let's bring that all the way up to the ends on the phone's message center. And I want to go down to the category of do. And notice as I'm moving the wire around, the message center is responding just like I was clicking and opening these tabs. And of course you can do this over and over again. So if you want to go to properties or if you want to see outs, just be patient and let that wire open up each one of these categories just like you were clicking on it. And I want to attach dropped missed to put back and let go. It's actually going to wire right to itself. So it says if I miss or if I don't hit any targets on the screen, well, we're going to jump right back to this original position. We can go ahead and try that. Let me zoom back out just a little bit. And we'll run from this event forward. Now if I drop any place on the screen, the phone instantly snaps back. And if I drop right on top of the target, since that's a condition that we haven't really specified anything for, we've only specified move back if I miss, why the phone is going to stay in place. So we're nearly done. We've got most everything already set up. We've got a condition if we've missed, and something is happening if we actually hit the target. Now, we might want to do something a little bit more special. We might say that if we actually drop on the target, maybe the student shouldn't be able to move it again. So we could do that by simply clicking and dragging to create a wire. We're going to bring that up to Properties and to Actions. And we're going to say, I want to change whether or not the student can move it. So I've got an out here, and all the outs so far, we've just been attaching those to ins. So I want to take this and I want to attach dropped on to movable true, except that there isn't an in already, right? If I look under display or if I look under do, there isn't an in that says make movable false. So I need to teach this phone a new trick. So I'm simply going to attach this out right here to movable true. And notice that it creates a brand new in. Of course, it has child ribbons. And I want to say, if I drop on the appropriate target, that the phone's no longer movable. Let's go ahead and try that. We're in locked mode. I want to run from this event forward. I can drop it any place on the screen and it continues to be movable. And the moment that I drop it on 1983, it sticks in place. And if I try to click and drag it again, I can't move it around. So it's stuck. It's learned that new trick and it's already performed it. Now we need to hit Edit Reset. Let's grab our phone here for a second. And you notice if I hit Edit Reset, I look over in the inspector, it's still movable, but it will turn immovable the moment that the student drops on the appropriate target. All right, now we need to make several more of these because we've got a whole bunch of other phones that we need to place on the screen. I'd like to teach you a little bit about object replacement. So remember in the arena how we did Alt+ to essentially create a new quiz question and keep all of the wiring. And we've done some copy and paste where we've also recreated things and kept the wiring. I'm going to do that again, but now I'm going to show you something very cool. I've selected both 1983 and the phone. On my keyboard, I'm going to hit the C for copy, hit the V for paste, and let's just move these over using the nudge keys. So I've got a second copy here now of 1983 and the phone. 1983 and the phone, the wiring is all set up. But what I want to do is I want a different phone and I want a different year. So I'm going to go back to the asset library. Notice here on the screen it's even telling me that I've used this phone twice and I've used the image of the year twice. I want to replace this phone with the new one. And I want it to maintain all of the things that I've changed. So I've changed the zoom percentage and I've created some wiring. I want all that to stick. I just want a different image. So let's go ahead and grab the phone for 1997. I'm going to click and drag from the asset library. I still got my mouse button down. Now the moment that I bring this image over the top of the phone, I get what we call construction tape. See, it's that yellow and black dotted outline that goes right around the phone. What Zebra is telling me is if I let go with this image right now, it's going to replace the 1983 phone image with the 1997 phone image. So let's go ahead and do that and let go. It's going to prompt me. It's going to say this object has duplicates that could be replaced. Do I want to replace all of the objects with the duplicate or just this one? And in this case, I want to just replace this object. So I'll choose that option. Notice that the phone stayed small and that everything here on the screen is, all the wiring is still in place. Now what I want to do is I want to also replace the target. So I'm going to click and drag here from 1997 and we'll bring that over the copied version of 1983. It too will get construction tape. And I'll let go. And you notice here, if you just open this category just a little bit, you'll see that the numbers actually change. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. I'm going to run from this event forward. I'm going to click and drag, and let's make a few mistakes so that we see that put back a couple of times. All right, now I'm going to drop it on 1983, and notice it jumps right back. And if I drop this on 1997, oh, it's behind. We can fix that, no problem. But if I drop them respectively on their targets, they no longer become movable. Hit Edit Reset just to jump back here. All right, the last thing that I might want to do here is I want to make sure that these two phones are always going to be above the numbers. So we'll go to the Arrange menu and bring both of them to the front. All right, the last thing that I want to do here before we finish up and publish our project is to actually give just a little bit of animation to the put back action. So if I miss, instead of just snapping back into the original position, I want it to kind of float back there over a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and take a look at properties and actions for each of these phone images. And here near the bottom here, you'll find in the middle of some path properties, put back seconds. And this is the amount of time that it takes to go back to a previous location when you use this inlet here at the top for putback. So in putback seconds, maybe I'll just put in 0.4. So 0.4 seconds. Do the same thing here for the 1983 phone. Say 0.4. And I'm going to give these guys just a little bit of a better starting position. Kind of line them up here a little bit. You might want to put them in a different order if you'd like. Make it a bit more of a challenge. And I suppose we better put 1997 actually on the timeline where it's meant to be. Of course, you could do the same trick with giving it a little bit of a drop shadow and changing the shadow's color so that it stands out on the screen. All right, now that we've made those changes, let's go ahead and see how it looks. I'm in locked mode, and of course I want to hit the Run from this event forward button. So if I miss, it's going to float back up to its original position. And if I drop it on the timeline, why, it's going to stick. In your learner's guide, you'll find some other instructions on how to manipulate the final position of the phone when you drop on the appropriate drop spot using XYR. And I invite you to take a look at how that's done in your learner's guide. But now you've learned how to really finalize this drag and drop interaction and use object replacement in order to continue building on without having to do any more wiring. I think this is a good stopping point. Now I'd like to show you how to publish your project. To publish your project, you need to go up here to the drop-down menu, of course, and it's labeled Publish, so you'll find it right away, and zap your project. And really what all this does is it bundles it up so that you can distribute it. Might take a second. It's going to auto-save your project for you and make sure that any of the changes that you've just made are captured. And as soon as it's done saving, it's going to bring up a dialog here for us to enter in some more information. You can attach your own icon to this project. So I might invite you to go out to the assets that we sent you and pick something. It really doesn't matter what. We'll maybe grab the image of the woman here with the phone, and that can be our icon. You can give the app a description if you'd like. Of course, you can type anything. I often, when I'm ready to publish, have created a description in a text editor and just copy and paste it right here on the screen. If you're going to publish it through our shops, of course, you can give it a category, anything that you might want to add in there that you think is relevant. It's going to bring in your author name. And then you can add screenshots. So this is pretty neat. It will allow you to snap images of the stage here. I'm zoomed in a little bit here, so let's make sure that we're zoomed in at 100%. Of course, we can snap the stage. And all the buttons here still work, so we can navigate through event flow. And we might pick, a couple other images here that we want to bring in. So I'll snap the stage again. And we give you an opportunity to add lots of screenshots. And these are great. I mean, if you're going to be sharing this project with other people, you want to give them a quick look at what's inside this project, that's a nice way to do it. If you don't want to use our snapping feature, well, you can import graphics all on your own. So we could go and we could just grab a couple of these other images that we sent you and we can add those to the list as well. And feel free to add as many as you like, and then we can say, okay, I'm done. And now we'll go in and finalize our project, saving those snapshots as well. And then it's going to open up a dialog here where we can choose who can view our project. And it will also give us the shortcuts to paste our project either into our LMS or into a web page, just about any place. This is where we set the privacy level, and there are several different options here in front of us, and I'm just going to choose don't show this app in the app shop and hit share. This then brings up a screen where we can go ahead and we can either package it for our LMS or for a web server. We can even share it on social media. This will embed it inside of our Facebook page. Or we can go ahead and copy and paste some HTML code to place inside of a web page. If we were to package this up for an LMS, it gives us a couple options depending on what version of Zebra you're using. If you have the Pro Plus version, you can save and download all of your course files, including all the assets that would run locally on your own LMS behind your own firewall. If you choose the ZebraZapps full service hosting, we keep your course file running on the ZebraZapps cloud. If you make any changes even after you've published it to your LMS, say you want to come in and change a couple images on the screen, change some text, maybe even add a full interaction, you can leave your course up and running on your LMS with students still inside of it, make a few changes, and then just republish your project. And you won't, or save your project, publish it, and you won't have to make any changes to your LMS. It will all continue running seamlessly. I invite you to take a look at all of these options after you've completed your project and experiment with downloading a local package to run on your own web server if you'd like, or on an LMS. And of course, our client services folks are here to help with any of the questions that you might have about publishing. I'm just going to go through and download here a local file. So if I choose the Pro Plus option for local delivery and say package for an LMS, it's going to start zipping up a file for me. And here, if I zoom this in, you can see it started to download, and now I've got a file that I can drag and place on my desktop, and it's ready to go in my LMS. Well, thanks for viewing the summary for Webinar 5. There are a few other things that we didn't quite get to that are covered in the full webinar and are certainly available inside your learner's guide. But from end to end, we've certainly gone through all the skills that you need in order to start creating your own courses. Thanks so much.